Our speaker today is Claudia Loayza. She is an associate developer at Developed by Women, which is a nonprofit focused on creating pathways for women and underrepresented groups to learn, lead, and invest in real estate and development. And so in her role, she works on a range of projects, including affordable housing, mixed-use developments, rural initiatives, and trauma-informed design. She previously worked at the Utah Division of Multicultural Affairs. She earned a Bachelor of Science from the Brigham Young University, which is this university, and a Master's in City and Metropolitan Planning from the University of Utah. She also has swum with dolphins in the Amazon, which she says were ugly and scary. She is a dancer, and while she was at BYU, she danced in Living Legends, and she and her family continue to dance to this time. So thank you so much for joining us.
I wish I was this tall. I am not that tall. Thanks for having me, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back on campus. I think this microphone is more for capturing the recording, right? Okay. But it has been several years, I think, since I've been on campus that has not related to just picking someone up or coming for a show. So it was kind of fun to work from campus today. I was taking calls and meetings and kind of seeing the hustle and bustle. So I know how busy you all are, so I appreciate you making time. Today, I'm excited to be talking to you a little bit more about, oh, I think my slides just gave out here. Let me see if I can get these back up. Oh, maybe. This might not be me. Okay, here we go. So I am excited to talk to you a little bit more about my professional journey and career. It's been very, I think, varied in terms of experience, and the decisions I've made have really led me to understand that I have a hard time making, one decision. So I've tried to do everything under the sun that I really like to do, related to community building, which I know is the theme of tonight. This is a presentation that I actually like to use quite a bit when I'm going out and teaching a little bit more about what it means to be a community builder and what it means to community develop. So you'll see a couple pictures, probably many pictures that speak more to the joy and the placemaking that I try to bring into different spaces that we create. And the theme of this is rooted in rising. So hopefully you catch on to that. And it's really about what it means to build something, right? When we build something, we have a foundation, right? We create the roots. And then when we build upwards, horizontally, vertically, right? Whether it's here or there, we're rising. So we're creating something that is going to outlast us, probably, outlive us, and hopefully something that's going to impact generations to come. So that's kind of my ethos, my desire to kind of leave in this world. And a little bit about me, just my background and kind of where I've been. Like what was shared, I am a alumni of BYU. Graduated in 2019. So right before the pandemic. So I got to have my graduation, which was in full force, and was sad for the folks the year after me that had to have those adjustments. But grateful for the time I had here at BYU. I did a Kennedy study abroad, which was awesome. I went to Ghana. Had a public health emphasis. I ended up going to the University of Utah for my master's in city planning, and that's where I was able to specialize in community and housing development. And then from there, I've been able to get my graduate certificate from Cornell in real estate development as well. So kind of bounced back and forth a little bit here and there. And some of the images you see up here are kind of the different lives I've lived, whether it's in Ghana, right, working on different public health research, or speaking, on behalf of a couple of different state departments, and building relations with international partners like Mexican consulate, like different individuals that are coming here to promote business and economic development. And then also working towards what I think is the biggest issue of our generation, which is affordable and attainable housing. So all of that has taken me to these different paths. I was previously at the Division of Multicultural Affairs, which, for those that don't know, there's a department in Utah, state department, called the Department of Cultural and Community Engagement. And I fell in love with it right after BYU. So I actually interned with the division my senior year here at BYU, and basically begged them to hire me, and they did. and learned that that department is kind of the heart and soul of state government in a way. There's all the humanities, state history, You Serve Utah, the Volunteer Commission is housed there, arts and museums, even the Pete Swazo Athletic Commission, if you have heard of that. So all of the different things that really create tight-knit communities, connected communities that inform arts and culture are within this department. And I spent a little bit more time here because this division is really where I started to grow in my love of community building. And a lot of that was built around social capital, right? Like how we create communities that can withstand crises, right? When it came to the pandemic, right, there were so many different things that impacted the way that we were able to access resources, groceries, right, different state resources even, and the way that we were able to inform pathways to serve people better were to be multicultural in our approach, right? The way that one person might intake information might be different based on the language they speak, the place in Utah that they live, whether it's an urban or rural context, right? So that I think has really helped frame my lens around how we build resources and connected communities that, again, are going to give everyone what they need when they need it, and allow for them to thrive in place, age in place, right? All these things in place that I think at the end of the day, when we think about sustainable or resilient communities, it is about the people that surround us, right? And what we're able to access. So this is where my experience or foray into affordable housing and community development really came into play. Give Group is kind of our umbrella organization to develop by women. It's one of the leading affordable housing firms in Salt Lake right now. We're now venturing into rural Utah and Moab and St. George. And I'm gonna have to ask for your patience with my out of breathness a little bit. I'm ending my first trimester of pregnancy, so sometimes my breath is a little here and there. But the goal for Give really is to build communities that are resilient and that are sustainable and interconnected. And part of that is because we are a group of community forward developers. And what I mean by that is that we are approaching real estate, really development, through this lens that the gaps and the social fabric that we live in, the context of it, there are inefficiencies, whether it's in affordability, right? Whether it's lack of walkability or connectivity, right? If you don't have a car, it's probably harder for you to find a job or get to work, all these things, right? And most of the projects that we work on are all income restricted, units. So they're for people that can't afford, housing in many different contexts. And for me, my main focus is on units that are trauma informed. So I'm working on a lot of projects that support women that are exiting different situations of domestic violence, individuals that are exiting homelessness, and the way that they are living their world. That's how we want to fit the context of what we're building. So the approach is, what are some community-based resiliency systems that we can build into the way you live? And I have some pictures of this here in a second. But allowing for the building that they're living in to kind of do as much as it can for them within that footprint, right? So maybe there's a preschool or a daycare center on the first floor, or there's a food or restaurant that can allow for them to have affordable meals. And we have partnerships, right, where we bring in different tenants and people that kind of are mission aligned, and allow for the residents of that building to be able to access their food or different resources at a rate that aligns with where they are in life. We also, actually, this project that you see up here, Project Open, it's in Salt Lake City, Utah. It's in the Guadalupe neighborhood that is just west of the railroad tracks. It was the first building to be built fully electric for less than the cost of traditional construction. So not the first all-electric building in Utah, because someone else did that before us, but we were the first ones to prove that it is actually more cost-effective to build in a way that is net zero and more sustainable in terms of how we're producing more energy or less energy, and also donating it back to the grid. So that's what I mean by shared systems and shared benefits. So what the building that you see over here was able to do and prove was that by having a system that is, one, more sustainable, and also two, able to produce enough energy or more than enough energy to kind of donate that back to the grid, we were able to lower utility costs for families. And by doing so, families were able to invest that money in different ways, whether it was, piano lessons for their kiddos, or simply being able to invest that into, a retirement fund or something that just gives them more flexibility and upward mobility in the end. And these are some of our buildings. So up here, a lot of what we've been doing right now has been along kind of the north of, or I guess west of North Temple, kind of Salt Lake City block. So Citizens West is what you're seeing right here, actually. There's 4 different phases, and all of these buildings, like I said, are all electric and have a sense of shared system. So, for example, we have a car sharing program where for individuals, again, that are, getting back on their feet and finding opportunities like a job or different ways of getting around, they're saving up for a car maybe, or maybe they're a little bit more mobility impaired. So we have a car share program that allows for them to rent a vehicle at their convenience, and also not have to pay for car insurance, which again is another big expense. And murals as well. I mean, and this is my kind of near and dear to my heart concept, because I think buildings don't always look the prettiest, right? And when we think of the term projects, I think that again, there's this connotation that affordable housing, low income restricted housing looks a certain way, and sometimes it does. Like that is kind of the unfortunate reality. But what we try to do is to create beautiful buildings, because people deserve nice things, right? So this is one of my favorite murals, actually on the back of Project Open, facing this really, really beautiful kind of mini park. And these are the projects that I'm working on. So we've got a couple in Moab, one specifically that's aiming toward net zero. So essentially having enough active solar generation that is going to offset, every kind of usage that is on site, which is a really, really complicated and not so fun task in the process. But in the end, like I said, it allows us flexibility and even peace of mind for people that live there, where maybe they are starting out maybe paycheck to paycheck, but they don't have to worry about their electricity being cut out, right? They don't have to worry about being in a hot or cold room with their kids for the week and lack that comfort, even if they don't have the flexibility or even the security of some job or something that will give them that long-term, way out into a better life. But what we're doing, again, is trying to find those levers that we can pull that allows for quality of life to be achieved. And that's community building. Like, in a nutshell, what I shared, like, if you don't, take anything else, or if nothing else sinks in, community building really is thinking about how you create systems and this fabric where there is this sense of, and I'm going to use this quote to kind of emphasize it a little bit more. I don't know here, anyone familiar with Gwendolyn Brooks? Yeah? Okay. Gwendolyn Brooks is one of my favorite poets. She was the first African American woman to become a poet laureate. And this is my absolute favorite quote from her. And I think, again, it encapsulates this idea of what we do by community building and the responsibility behind it. And she once said, "We are each other's business. We are each other's harvest. We are each other's magnitude and bond." And this encapsulates the essence of community and responsibility. So community and responsibility go hand in hand for me personally and for the folks that I work with. Because again, what we're producing, what we're doing is impacting, right, the built environment. And it has its, it has its benefits, its deficits, the things that we take in, the things that we take out. But at the end of the day, what we're trying to create is a net positive, and allowing for people to access maybe what they might not be able to due to their circumstances, but also do it in a way that we're not creating an environment where we're there to save them, right? We're there to empower a path for them to choose, and allow them to create the reality that they want. And that kind of goes into another kind of personal note for me, where I think maybe this was mentioned in my bio a little bit, but my family loves to dance, and I have a good friend when I was here at BYU that emphasizes the idea that we dance for those that can't. And in my experience, and just to give you more context to my background, I'm a child of immigrants. I came here to BYU as someone that was kind of navigating higher ed for the first time in a context where maybe I didn't have as much support. So I kind of gravitated to the things that felt familiar. And some of that was, just staying busy all the time and just like not thinking about like what those in between gaps were going to be, but also finding, those horses of joy, which for me was dancing. And I was able to join Living Legends, which really taught me this idea that when we share the most important pieces of ourselves, which in my case was my culture, being, half Mexican, half Peruvian, and having this, deep love for where my family comes from and how we express ourselves. that is actually where I met my husband, and he was too good of a dancer because he beat me out of an audition, and I was actually really mad at him for a while. And then I finally gave in, and I was like, "Hey, you got to teach me how to dance. Teach me the things that I didn't do well, and let's work this out together." He never taught me. He actually asked me on a date, and then I forgot about how mad I was at him. But in the end, what I'm getting at here is that his perspective, his culture, he's Native American, his family and his tribe come from upstate New York near the Canada, Ontario area and the Akwesasne Mohawk Reservation. And a principle that I think kind of combines both of our upbringings, where we love culture, we love helping people, we love this idea of community building in every aspect. And something he taught me from his own tribal tradition is that there's something that the Haudenosaunee people or the Mohawk people practice and have practiced for, hundreds of years now. But it's called the 7 generations principle. This statue up here actually, I think, captures it really, really well. But it's basically this idea that what you're doing now, in order to become a fully resilient, sustainable community or society, should be informed by 7 generations behind you, and should be impacting or focusing on creating impact for the 7 generations ahead of you. And for me, that's a really gospel-centered principle. I know part of the really beautiful thing about BYU is that we're able to bring all these pieces of ourselves and emphasize what's most divine. And for me, that has always been knowing where I come from, right? Here on earth, right? Culturally, ethnically, but also where I'm going, where I'm heading. And I bring this up because it goes into this process that I would love for us all to take part in, which is called placemaking. And I have this picture of my 3-year-old son and my grandparents because I think it emphasizes really well just this idea of generational impact and creativity. And I think it's hopefully something that resonates with all of you. So as we're going through these next couple slides, welcome participation, but also just like introspection and reflection on who that generational goal, or what that generational goal is for you, right? A lot of you are already thinking about public service. A lot of you are doing it maybe right now, or actively making plans to figure out where you might fall into that category or sector. And I would encourage you to think about not just the categories, right? The sectors that you can enter, whether it's, international affairs, or if you want to go work for a diplomat, if you want to go work in DC, I think wherever you might be, and I hope this, part of my journey emphasizes this as well, that to be civically engaged means to be heart forward, right? And to be thinking about what it is that you're doing now that is going to secure the future or the outcomes that you would like to see in the future. But also thinking about how right now, again, to this next portion that we're going to talk about, how you're creating place, right? Right now we're in a space, we're in an auditorium, you're sitting in chairs, and I hope that you're all comfortable. But as you look around, right, there's so many elements around you that when this place was built, when this building was built, whoever designed it, whoever created it, didn't expect it to just be an empty room, right? They expected it to be filled with ideas and events and gatherings and convenings. And that's again where placemaking for me, community building for me, emphasizes this idea that it's a process and that it takes time. And it's probably going to take you a couple different tries to land where you want to land. So as we're moving forward, again, I want you to be reflective of where you want to go, how you're doing it now, but also realize that it's not a linear path, right? It's probably going to be like this, or you're going to go back and forth. Maybe you'll go back to square one, which is totally fine. So we're going to have a little bit of fun, and I'm going to hopefully get to know a little bit more about your favorite places. Okay, so placemaking is a process. I would love to personally know what your favorite places are, whether it's a physical place or a theoretical place, hopefully more physical, just so that the exercise kind of plays in a little bit. But what you see on the screen here for context is what the Project for Public Spaces has created as a theory for what makes a great place. What is good placemaking? And you'll see that there's 4 different pieces to it, right? The social aspect, right? Who can we connect with when we're there? the uses and activities, what you can do there, the comfort and image, right? What is it that you do or have access to in that space to make sure that you can stay there safely, right? And then the accesses and linkages. How do you actually get there safely, right? Is there only one way to get there? Is it multimodal? Does it allow for different people from different various endpoints to access it in a relatively, equitable way? Does it take you 5 hours to get there versus 5 minutes for someone else, right? So considering all these things, what places in your life, currently or past, do you feel like hit these 4 points? And you can raise your hand or shout them out. Yeah.
The library.
The library. Nice. And we're just over here. It's really close. Okay. What else? Yeah.
There was a church building on my mission that was really well placed with all of these criteria in mind.
Awesome. Where did you serve?
Philadelphia.
Nice. I love Philadelphia. It's a really beautiful place. One more. Yeah.
I would say national and state parks and forests.
Oh, love that. Love it. So you said a specific building, right? Something very hyper-local. And then I heard a church building, right, that had this memory attached to it, right? When I was on my mission, this seemed to me like a very good, well-situated place. And then even broadly, right, like a whole several acre gigantic space, like a national park or forest, that has a sense of protection around it, right? And it's a sense of place because there are specific people protecting it, right? Specific people that are keeping it taken care of. So this again, whenever we build something, I'm not sitting here like checking off the box and saying, okay, does it have every blue and like light blue thing on everything? You don't have to take it as seriously as that. But I think when we talk about placemaking, it is thinking through this process of from start to finish, right? Are you able to have an experience that makes you want to go again, right? Do you want to stay in that space? Do you want to return? And do you want to bring people with you, right? So hopefully it's kind of settling in and sinking in and absorbing what placemaking is. Placemaking is, again, like I said, a process, and community is the output, right? It's the outcome. Sorry. Here we go. Does anyone recognize what's up here? Top left. Anyone been to this particular street? Yeah? Raise a hand. Nice. Okay, cool. So this is Japantown. Japantown is one kind of dead-end street right now in downtown Salt Lake that basically houses the Japanese Church of Christ and the Japanese Buddhist Temple. It is perpendicular to the Delta Center, and it's kind of at this interesting precipice right now of the Delta Center and Smith Entertainment Group coming in and basically redesigning the whole block, right? So we've been in a lot of cool conversations with them, and they have, an architect on their team too that are thinking about this idea of long-term placemaking. What you see kind of day to day up there is what, you'll probably run into when you're driving past, Japantown on a regular, day like today. However, there are some days during the year that it looks like this on the bottom. So Japantown has several festivals over the summer, different events as well that literally attract hundreds, if not thousands of people on this tiny street. It's literally one block, like that's it. But the goal here for me to kind of emphasize is that the placemaking, it has to be intentional, right? You can have short-term placemaking, and you can activate it with an event. You can activate it with things and physical items like banners, like lights and music, right? Or you can have long-term placemaking, which this New York schoolyard up here, right? Very bare. Probably, people use it because it might be the only way to really access a sense of physicality, right, when you're out there. But long-term placemaking is literally impacting your environment for the long term. So this is what the schoolyard looks like before. This is what it looks like after, right? We have amenities, we have different uses, we have pavement and colors and different trees, right? Landscaping that makes it, not just impactful in the moment, but impactful forever, right? Hopefully forever. So the goal here again for me to emphasize is that placemaking is about shaping places or shaping spaces into places by meaningfully engaging and reflecting the needs and values of the people that are going to use them. these are a couple videos of different activities that I've done over the years related to placemaking. One of my mentors in grad school, his name was Jorge Rojas. He invented a placemaking activity called Place It, where he basically brings in a bunch of like household items, arts and crafts, Legos, and brings them to people that want to create spaces. And this is a city planning concept. It's something that he coined up because he, as a planner in Los Angeles County, realized that people want to be planners, like they want to shape their spaces. They just don't know how to do it. Or they know how to do it, they just need to find the avenue and the path for them to be able to emphasize and actually create a model or create something visual to emphasize what they're trying to create. So what he did was kind of democratize planning, city planning. So he's taken this across California, across the nation. He's written a book. He was able to train me up on it, and I've used this tool with people in the community, like organizers that you see here around West Valley. They're trying to create a new community center in West Valley, kind of in response to a new University of Utah Health Center that's going to be built there. And I've done this with, full-on city council folks, like people that truly are in power, that can impact directly. So I share this as a way for you to hopefully also realize that the way that you kind of harness that power and ability to actually shape the spaces around you can be as fun and as creative as literally using arts and crafts to build what you want to see. And I think in my experience, it's been really fun because it truly levels the playing field, right? Like what they create could easily be the same thing that I've seen a city council person create or a planning commissioner create, right? And I think, again, speaks to this idea that we want to be creative, like we are creative, beings, and we want to find a way to do it that actually sparks joy at the same time. Like the people here are really happy. Like the context of what we were doing, maybe it wasn't so fun because they were like, these big companies are going to come and they're going to like change the way that we see West Valley, and it's not going to be as fun for us because we're going to be under construction for all these years. But the goal was also to kind of pull out these opportunities to participate in that process, right? To say, yes, this is going to happen, but I want to share what's important to me and what matters to me. And little things that came out were like, in West Valley, there was a Hollywood connection. Anyone go to West Valley? Anyone familiar with that? It's like an arcade that's been out of commission, out of business for several decades. And I forgot that it existed. But what came out of that conversation was, we have so many different, needs in West Valley, including different programs to support our youth, right? Different ways to reduce crime, different ways to activate folks. And it has to be multi-generational. It has to be age appropriate. It has to be, able to withstand the test of time, right? Like if West Valley grows exponentially, like how do we grow with it? How do we grow in resources alongside that? Okay, I've got another activity for you all. I would like for you all to share what this picture or how this picture makes you feel. I saw a big thumbs down. Why? Tell me why.
I don't know. This is the vibe I get whenever I walk outside of my apartment by a big street. It just feels like so ugly to walk anywhere and go anywhere. It doesn't feel convenient. It's smelly by these big roads. Maybe that's not what you're trying to get with this picture.
No, there's no wrong answer here. Yeah.
Every time I see this vibe.
Gotcha. So you don't feel comfort. You don't feel safe. Gotcha.
It feels small.
It feels small. What makes it feel small?
The road is so huge compared to just the size of a regular person.
Do you see the size of that person, like in comparison to like everything around it? It's like they're like an ant, right? Anyone else? Yeah, and then over here.
Two things. One, like for someone who doesn't have a car, that looks like so much walking. Or two, what was my second one? Oh, it looks like there's not much to like do around this area.
Mm-hmm.
Picture like, I don't know. I like to see like restaurants and places, like fun things, just like I don't know, libraries, things, places to go and do things. And
Love that.
It doesn't feel like there's a lot.
You mean you don't want to hang out at Wendy's all day? Like, it's right there. Love that. I mean, I'm seeing and hearing that you're trying to apply the placemaking diagram, right? What do you do here? What can you do here?
I was just gonna say it feels really empty.
Feels empty.
Right? Like people are in their cars, and then one lady is walking alone There's
Mhm.
it's one thing to have a big busy city and have big roads like this that need to accommodate lots of people, but there's
Yeah.
lots of people on the sidewalk, there's lots of people crossing with you, right? It's still large and bustling. But
Right.
this is Salt Lake, right?
Yeah, it's Salt Lake.
Like
It's State Street. Yep.
Yep.
Main Street.
there's just cars, there's no people, and it feels, if you're walking, it feels really lonely.
Mhm.
You're surrounded by people here.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Love that. Anyone else? Did I see a hand over here? No? Okay. Yes. So again, I said there were no wrong answers. I probably share the same opinions that you all do, where this does not feel safe, right? To cross this street, and I've walked this street several times. You have 15 seconds to cross that street. Like, like, I have told planners several times that it's not enough, right? I've walked that street with my pregnant belly. I've walked that street not pregnant bellied, and it's not enough time, right? They may have added an extra 5 seconds, but the idea here is that it was not designed for people, perhaps, right? Maybe it wasn't designed for you to have a comfortable stroll as you're crossing the street. One thing I'll share here is that what I find interesting is that I've seen different takes on this picture, and I'm always intrigued by, one, people don't like it, people think it's not well designed, and then I see different individuals that look at it and see beyond what maybe might be right in front, right? When I've done this with 7th graders, they'll tell me, "Oh my gosh, look at the view. Look at the mountains. I love the mountains." And I'm like, "But don't you see like what's happening in front of you?" Like, but I think again, like the goal around placemaking is that you're creating spaces for people to express what they want to see and what they want to feel. And bringing all those things together, you find a way to build something for everyone, right? Anyone recognize this picture? Yeah? Anyone been here recently? Yes? What does this picture make you feel? Do you see any contrast? Yeah.
First, there's a lot more color, so it automatically feels like there's more life.
Right.
You also have more. You have more people. It feels easier to connect with other people here. It's a little bit
Yeah.
intense versus the other one. I'm like, sweet, you're walking on the other side of the street. Like,
Yep.
we couldn't hear each other even if I yelled. So those are two things that catch my eye.
Exactly. Right. Like even just this color palette, right? Like gray, dark, just kind of smoggy. Like I don't know, smoggy isn't a color, but if it was, like it would be this, right? And light. Like I mean again, it's kind of sunset time. It's like really nice, but again, the goal here is for you to see like people have reclaimed the street too, right? Like there's maybe one person right now that's walking kind of that terrible road. So when again I talk about placemaking, when I talk about this idea of like the responsibility that we wield as developers, as people that are impacting the public space, it's about creating spaces where it can kind of revolve around the human experience, and also create different uses, right? Like there are streets on Center Street, right? Like there have to be, like it has to be a thoroughway. But some days, sometimes it doesn't have to be that way, right? You can create a different reality once in a while. And it does help. Like the businesses on Center Street, I have to tell you, like in comparison to a lot of main streets I've seen across the country and in Utah, they're activated, right? Like they care about what's happening in front of their buildings and who's experiencing what. So the goal here again, the public space does belong to everyone, and it informs and should inform what we build and who we build for. I had the pleasure actually, this is what, like I think of all the things I'm like the most proud of in my career, it has to be helping create the first statewide mariachi competition in Utah. I am not musical at all. I wish I was. I wish I could play. My great grandpa was a mariachi, but didn't pass any talent of that to me. But what was special about this experience was that it was held at the Utah State Capitol. Anyone visit the Utah State Capitol recently? Yeah? Who's been into the rotunda? Yeah? Can you imagine, just like imagine for a second, like live music, gigantic guitars and trumpets and just belting a cappella in that rotunda. I'm like getting chills just thinking about like how much I love the acoustics of that space. The whole goal around that, it was to celebrate culture. Like we partnered with the Mexican consul. This was during my time at the Division of Multicultural Affairs, where again, what we were doing was a lot of building successful relationships around not just policy, but also connectivity and experience, which again, public perception is public policy, right? Leads to public policy. This was a way to kind of give more access or at least visibility to the idea that the state capitol right? Where the people's house is truly the people's house. And I spoke with several people that day that were there just for the music, and actually told me straight up, like, I didn't know I could walk in here, right? People that have maybe been in Utah for years, like multi-generational, or, first gen, new Americans, they had just moved here, had just immigrated here, but had no idea that the state capitol was public space, that they could just walk in. And then I said, well, let's take it a step further. Like, did you know that you could go and like knock on the door of your representative and like ask to speak with them? And then if they're there, they'll come and speak with you. Like, they will welcome you into their office. And it was like mind blown, right? So the avenue by which people felt more civically engaged, maybe at first glance didn't seem so much like a civic engagement experience, but they came to the state capitol like expecting something like culture, right? Something that was relating to something of their experience, but they left feeling like they felt more connected to a process as well. I don't know that we have time for this video. We'll come back to it if there's a question that connects to it. But again, placemaking is more than design. It's more than just the color that you pick. It's more about what you hang on the walls. It's more than the solar and the active and passive ways that you're trying to make something more sustainable. It's a movement, right? And this is actually a quote from one of the individuals that participated in that West Valley Visioning project. And she is one of the sweetest people that I've ever met. And she captured it really well. She said, placemaking becomes more than design. It becomes a movement sustained by the people who live, love, and lead in peace. And she was really famous for those one-liners. And then relating it to housing, just kind of circling back on, again, like what I do day to day, it is about creating spaces that resonate, but also about creating choice, right? Whether you are in a single room occupancy situation, many of you might be in your own, dorms, own single rooms, that works for where you are in life right now. For others, maybe it's a tiny home, like as you're getting, further down your life and you want a little bit more space and privacy. Maybe it's an ADU, right, behind your parents' house or somewhere in the world where there's space. Or maybe it's multi-generational living, right, where you're in a space like when I grew up, having my grandparents live with us, or cooperative housing where you're sharing a large lot with several people. Maybe it's a planned unit development, right? But the goal again is that you're creating, housing, that you're creating shelter, and that you're creating something that feels at home within the community, right? That impacts and is able to create that sense of connectivity across different uses, right? So these are just some examples of different projects that we've worked on, right? We've Tracy Aviary in Salt Lake. Some folks have worked on that on our team. There's a new coffee place. Don't drink the coffee, but I love the people that work there. Culture Coffee, that's in the Rose Park neighborhood. They're a really cool spot. They hold a lot of events, different places. This area right here is a park that was created for different foster care children and their families, kind of needing a space for kind of reunification and different things. So again, all of these are in the context of community and built for certain uses, but informed again by different models, whether it's the placemaking model or this dignified design framework that one of my friends created. They work for Shopworks Architecture, which is based out of Colorado, but they've, again, kind of taken this placemaking concept and then applied it to a specific area or realm of which they're working in. In their case, it's architecture, right? Connection, choice, comfort, safety, and then using that and weaving into like the actual building process, right? When you're talking about, the services that are there accessible to you in that building, who's activating that? Do you have a property management company? Do you have a nonprofit coming in and doing resource work? Or do you have, volunteers? Do you have individuals that are, committing to something more than a lease, right? When you live there, is the expectation that you support the community in a role, right? Is there a council or is there something really that is activating the space long term? So in closing, I know I've talked at you a lot. I would love to take some questions if you have them. But this is my kind of final thought on what it means to create space, create place, and do so in this feel of what we owe to each other, and as potential public servants in the future. I work for a nonprofit / private entity, but I'm always going to have a public servant heart. That's where I got my start, and I'm always going to take that with me wherever I go. I may or may not end up back in the public sector. But I think the goal here again is that those choices that we make early on, right? Whether it's about the land acquisition, the design of what we're doing, the people that we're including, that's going to shape whether a place becomes a source of safety and connection or a site of continued harm. And when we ignore whatever trauma, whether it's historical, systemic, or personal, right? Like I mentioned, I work with a lot of individuals that are coming with interpersonal trauma. If we don't take that into account, right, we do risk pouring it into the foundation. So, in closing, I want to thank you all for your attention because I know I talked a lot at you. But my hope for you is that you take whatever it is that you're learning right now and find a way to apply it in the real world. And hopefully that is in a condition where you think about these examples, right? Whether it's a physical space or a program or a policy that you're impacting, the people that you are going to impact are going to live that reality in a physical context, right? Whether, you're getting out the vote or you're having a project related to a certain campaign or a certain policy you're trying to enact. Think about like where people might have the most successful experience in listening to you and taking on whatever it is that you're trying to get them to do. And find what it means for you personally to create a great place, whether it's like short term, right, or something more long term. This was my niche. This is what I found. This is what kind of spoke to me during my time here at BYU and what I tried to create intersections around, creating great places for people that will outlast them, and hopefully those outcomes will also outlast those same people that we aim to impact at first. So with that, thank you for your time. Happy to take some questions and appreciate, everyone that showed up tonight. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Make generously provided treats, so we'll do both of these things together.
Sure. Yeah.
But I guess one of my questions is, you've talked a lot about your work just in place making and logistics and everything, and so I guess my question would be, what are some significant obstacles that you've seen as you've managed the logistics in various projects, in whatever form those obstacles took, and some solutions that you've seen during your work on these various projects?
I love that question. I think as a planner, community developer, one of the biggest challenges that we have is something that we call NIMBYism. Anyone familiar with that term? It's the not in my backyard people, right? And I think to an extent we have to give them a little credit because they also care deeply about place. They care deeply about protecting a certain kind of place for a certain kind of people maybe sometimes. But in context to your question, I think that that's the biggest challenge when we've been creating different developments that are meant to serve a very vulnerable population. Sometimes that comes with some concerns on some folks' plates where is that going to bring in crime? Is that going to lower my property value? Is that going to impact the way that my kids can go to school, right? I think a lot of that is mitigated by being proximate, by being able to actually go and knock on the doors that are going to be surrounding the place that you're trying to create, and asking them, being upfront and saying, tell us your concerns and tell us what we don't know, because we don't live here, right? You're going to be the one next door to this big construction site for years, or maybe a couple months. So we don't know what we don't know, and once we do know, hopefully we can do better. But it's about keeping that door open, I think. And there's so many different applications I think that I can bring alongside that. But I think, again, it kind of comes down to building a sense of proximity, which then brings on more shared collaboration for the whole neighborhood context, not just your one single project. Yeah.
I'm going to try to figure out how to phrase this, but you earlier very early in your slides mentioned that you work with creating housing for individuals who have been survivors of domestic violence and such. Utah has an above average rate of domestic violence and sexual assault. How do you think we can create spaces that are preventative of kind of issues such as that instead of just merely reactionary?
It's a very great question, and I appreciate that so much. I think, again, part of this is preventative care and not just, like you said, reactions to the situations. And we're working with a local nonprofit in Moab actually on a project. They're a women and family shelter. And one way that we've done that and where we kind of fit into the puzzle is actually engage them meaningfully in the design of what we're doing. Something that they taught me that I had, again, no idea around was having an extra, egress into all the bathrooms, right? Like, bathrooms are unfortunately one of the highest places where violence can happen and abuse can happen, because there is really only one exit, right? And it's an unfortunate situation where you have to talk about the design of a bathroom, right, which is such a basic need. But that's something that we were taught by someone that was an actual expert that understood the needs of the people. So I think one thing, very kind of maybe not as technical in nature, but maybe it is involving those people that are actual experts in their field and experts in the needs of the people that we're trying to help, right? Like they are, I think, in terms of like the process, they're there with them day one, right? Like when they're exiting that situation, they're then with them day one. So maybe it is a little bit more reactionary, but they're also in a position where they can say, I've seen the stories and experienced the stories of all these folks. Here's where I need you to understand maybe that it's more than just how much can this project cost or not cost, right? It's going to be more money to add an extra, exit to the bathroom, but it's worth it, right? If people feel safe, it's worth it to add more lighting. It's worth it to have more security, right? And also be more trauma informed in the way that we're even accessing art around the place, right? Like we plan to have a literal social worker like walk the site and tell us in what way would you experience, in what way would you feel like this needs to be adjusted in terms of like how do you access the space? Are there too many closed areas, right? So it is the design, right, and at least the way that we approach it, but it also is the people that we're involving in the beginning. So yeah, I wish I had a more like preventative care answer to that, but I think it's involving the right folks. So yeah.
What is one thing you would want us to take away just as individuals in a community to do like every day that we can help
Oh
to
my
have better
gosh.
communities?
Love this question. You know what? How many of you take public transit? Yeah? A good amount? Some, yeah. Do that more often. Like don't just like do it to like get from one place to another, but like sit down on the train, on the bus, or even like on your bike as you're biking, like and like actually take in the spaces around you. I scooter and bike around the city. That's how I get back and forth. And it's like my one way to kind of ground truth to things that in theory make sense, right? Like wider bike lanes, wider sidewalks. And it's also kind of utilitarian. Like you have to get somewhere anyways. Why not experience it in a way that's going to allow you to be a little bit more aware of your surroundings, and in the process more aware of your fellow human beings. I can't tell you the many times that I've had where I've been in the wrong place at the wrong time sometimes when I'm taking transit, but I've also been in the right place at the right time. Like someone, recently when I was taking the train had a mental health episode. And not to say that I had to be the one there, sorry. But I was grateful that I was there when that person needed someone. And I was able to help them get the contact and help that they needed. Or again, it's as simple as, sitting there watching someone struggle getting on the train with a stroller and you being able to jump in and say, you know what, there's this button you can push before you enter the train that says ADU, that's for people that have, wheelchair access, but you can also use it, right? As someone with a stroller, you can use it. So that's what I would say. It's something, again, you don't have to do it daily, but if you can do it, regularly to feel more connected to the spaces around you, you can learn a lot. Yeah. Okay. Okay, yes, no worries. Thank you so much. Thank you.